Hi, Shelley.
It is now 4 o'clock and we will reconvene the City Council Successor Agency and Housing Authority meeting for Thursday, March 10th. And we'll start with roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Nestandi.
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Presente.
Mayor Harnick.
Here.
All present.
Thank you so much. We will now move to our Pledge of Allegiance, and Mayor Pro Tem Sabby Jonathan will lead that, and then we will have some inspiration from Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Mayor. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. With all that's going on in the world, I think that it's time to take a little bit of time to reflect that even though we can feel as a small little mid-sized city and the problems of the world are far away, I think it's an opportunity to reflect of all of the people in our community that may come from countries impacted. And whether it be today or this generation or a previous generation, I would like to invite everyone to take a moment of silence to reflect on what people in other places of the world are experiencing. While we complain about gas prices and COVID, there are people fleeing for their lives. And I think we can spend 1 minute to honor them. So thank you. 1 minute, please. And with that minute, I encourage us all to work for peace from within so that we can bring that peace forward to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to, is there any reportable action from closed session?
Yes, Madam Mayor. On the first item, which had to do with Palm Communities, the City Council authorized by unanimous vote an exclusive negotiating agreement for an initial term of 90 days. So that will be available to the public once it's finalized. There were no additional reportable actions taken, but direction was given. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to awards, presentations, and appointments. And we have certificates for our Palm Desert High School wrestling team. Do we, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone represent? Looks like we might. Okay. Looks like we have Bella Mazet on. Is there anyone else for representing the wrestling team? Okay. I think, did we lose Bella? Oh, there they are. Yay. Hello. We're so
Oh.
proud of you. So I'm going to read the certificate of achievements. And of course, I hope you have them. If you don't, of course, we're going to bring them to you. But the first one is for the Palm Desert High School wrestling team. It says for winning the Division I California Interscholastic Federation Championship, progressing to Masters, and bringing home 2 first-place trophies at state. Breaking every Palm Desert High School record for wrestling is an accomplishment that can only be attributed to your athletes' dedication, passion, and hard work. And that's presented today. And thank you so much for making us proud. And I'm an Aztec at heart, so go Aztecs. Yay, thank you. And we have there we go, our Aztec Cup, wonderful. And we have 2 others. We have a certificate of achievement also. The City of Palm Desert, California gives special recognition to Brooke Montanona for his accomplishments on the Palm Desert High School wrestling team, first place at state. Can Brooke stand up? Because we want to see you. Okay. Congratulations.
Brock.
Brock, it is Brock. I'm sorry. And Brock, did I see you at the Student of the Month breakfast the other day?
Yes, yeah.
I thought so. He got an award at the Student of the Month breakfast also.
You'll be affectionately known as Brooke the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's nice.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to blame it on the font on the certificate, but you know, it's probably the nut attached to the keyboard on my end. So I'm so sorry. And then we have another certificate of achievement. The City of Palm Desert, California gives special recognition to Daniel Herrera for his accomplishments on the Palm Desert High School wrestling team, first place at state. So Daniel, I got this one right. Please stand up. Outstanding. So thank you so much. We're so proud of you for everything you've done. We always say that our schools are not apart from Palm Desert. They are a part of Palm Desert, and you make us very proud. And thank you so much. And you broke all sorts of records. First time in Palm Desert High School history. Go Aztecs. So thank you so much. Would anyone like to speak?
If I could, I know this is Tech Infant, one of the assistant principals here at the high school, and Coach Montanona is a very humble man, so he's not big on bragging. I'm gonna brag for him a little bit. The program he's running here continues to run, especially this year, is putting up numbers, reaching milestones and accolades that we've never seen before. And as far back as we can find, this valley has never seen, even going back as far as the early 80s when Indio was a renowned wrestling powerhouse. Nobody's putting up the numbers, especially what we did this year. So it's a tribute to these hardworking, our wrestling, our young men and women wrestlers, but especially to Coach Montanona and his coaching staff, the dedication, the hard work, the hours. You know, anybody that's been affiliated with athletics, it's the hours that you put in, the dedication it takes. So hats off to him and what he's building, what his young gladiators are following him. I can't even tell you. Here's one. I can't even tell you the last time we had any kind of discipline issues, grades with any of the wrestlers here at the high school, and that itself is a tribute to their leader. So hats off to them.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for bringing home all those accolades to Palm Desert. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're very proud.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, so now we are going to move to city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 quick announcements. I would like to publicly recognize Veronica Chavez as our new finance director. So Veronica took over last week, and we're very excited to have her on board in her new role. And then I would like to also turn the comments over to Thomas, who's got some numerous special events that his staff is working on that we wanted to inform the public about. So if we could please elevate Thomas, we appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Thomas Soul, your Public Affairs Manager, and I have a few things to tell you about this afternoon. Coming up in March, on March 12th, starting in March 12th, we've got the annual concert series at the Gardens on El Paseo that will be held each Saturday through March 12th. March 16th, we have a film for the 2022 Palm Desert Public Art Documentary Film Series. Those are free films that happen up at the university campus. March 19th through the 25th, we'll be welcoming back Palm Desert Fashion Week El Paseo, also at the Gardens on El Paseo. And then that following weekend, March 25th to the 27th, we've got Palm Desert Food and Wine. So we're very happy to have those signature events come back to Palm Desert. We're looking forward to both of them. Ticket sales are going very well, so we should be welcoming back some good crowds for those. I also wanted to mention something very special. April is National Poetry Month, and it so happens that the Riverside County Teen Poet Laureate is a Palm Desert High School student. Katie Zinn is the Riverside County Teen Poet Laureate. She will be doing some readings in the Coachella Valley in April. April 5th, which is a Tuesday, she'll be at Palm Desert Public Library. And then Thursday, April 14th, she'll be at La Quinta Public Library. Doing some readings, those are open to everybody. And so we just wanted to get that on everyone's radar and note that our Palm Desert High School students, the wrestlers and the poets, are doing quite a bit of good work. And of course, if anybody wants to find more information about meetings or things that are happening at the city, they can go to thecityofpalmdesert.org. And if you want to learn more about events and entertainment type things around the valley, you can go to discoverpalmdesert.com for more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to council member reports and requests for action. Let's start with Council Member Kelly, please.
Thank you. Our council has several active subcommittees, which means that 2 appointed council members work with staff to do the preliminary legwork on issues so that they're as fully formed as possible by the time they get to the public meeting. It came to light at our goal session that it can be helpful for colleagues who are not on a subcommittee to know what's moving along and progressing. So I wanted to share with everyone on behalf of the Economic Development Subcommittee, myself and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, that we are continuing to work on progressing with the Visitor Center, which was a topic of interest at the goal setting session. We had a very fruitful session to give feedback to our architect. We've looked at some preliminary concepts, and I simply want to assure everyone that we're making progress.
Thank you. Councilmember Quintanilla, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report to the council comes from the Public Arts Committee, and we're plugging along as we try to see the potential exhibitors and sculptures that will form part of the new El Paseo collection. And I had the opportunity to go along with staff and get it part of the tour of some of the public art in Palm Desert, and are discussing ways to engage with not only Palm Desert residents, but those that are our visitors. So it was a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you when the time is right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nastandi, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and I have no comments for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Last Monday, the 28th, Councilmember Quintanilla and I had the pleasure of kicking off the inaugural meeting for the Homelessness Task Force, along with Staff Representative Heather Horning and other stakeholders and partners. And I got to tell you, I'm excited. I think that committee is going to make a difference, and looking forward to working with all those folks. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And I just have a couple of comments with the Mayor Pro Tem and I. We have toured our fire stations, making sure that we are in a position to make sure that we have the best fire station serving our community as possible. So we are learning more and exploring so that we can help in that process. The other thing, I had the great opportunity to go to the Living Desert Gala the other night, and it was so exciting to see the members of the community doing everything they could to support the Living Desert. And I know we're going to have, on March 24th, we'll have a study session from about the Living Desert, but just a few quick things. You know, they serve more than 30,000 students every year. Anybody, if they have EBT card holders, they can visit the zoo for $3 and they can have 4 guests. So, and they've gotten awards for all their conservation, preservation, and education. It's just an outstanding asset in our community with all they do for everyone in the community. So I look forward to that study session. And that is, you know, like Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan always says, we go to so many meetings, and we're not going to report out on everyone unless there is something you just have to hear about. But I know we're all busy going to our usual committee and commission assignments. At this point, I would like to have our clerk please give, I overlooked giving instructions on how to engage on this meeting. So if you can do that now, I'd appreciate it.
For those of you on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment, you can click on your raised hand button on your screen or on your smartphone. If you're calling in using only the phone line, you'll press *9 to raise your hand to speak. And when you're called upon, press *6 to unmute your line. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we will go to the non-agendized public comments. So is there anyone at this point who would like to make a comment regarding something that is not on the agenda? And I do see a hand up. It's Tammy Martin. Can we bring her into the meeting, please?
Tammy Martin, you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. I'm here today, first of all and foremost, to thank the City of Palm Desert for your continued partnership with Friends of the Desert Mountains and with the Wildflower Festival that took place on March 5th. During, as most of you know, we had extremely high winds on Saturday, and we had to pivot. We didn't know, it was either shut it down or come up with a different plan. And a huge, huge thank you to Vanessa Mager from the City of Palm Desert for suggesting that we take it inside. And she contacted Aaron from the Desert Recreation District. And at 8:45, we had all of our vendors and exhibitors set up outside. Within 45 minutes, we had them turned around and inside the gymnasium. We relocated our food vendors and our beer and wine garden and music in the park to behind the Desert Recreation District, which blocked the wind. And all in all, at the end of the day, everybody was so thrilled that we moved it inside. They thanked us for moving it inside because they were able to make sales. I would estimate our attendance was anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 people from inside and outside. So taking an event that we could have lost a lot of money on and turning it around to make sure that this community had an awesome event on Saturday. I plan on giving a full presentation on March 24th at the next council meeting. So I'll give a further update then. But again, I can't thank the city enough for continuing to support our organization and everything that we do here in the community.
Okay, thank you so much. Wow, that was very impressive, bringing it indoors in that amount of time. And we're so glad you did, because I know it's such an asset to the community. Congratulations, Ms. Mager, for getting that done. And remember that Friends of the Desert Mountains are the people who keep our trails so hikeable. And they're volunteers and they do a tremendous job. So thank you. Okay, we'll move to the consent calendar right now, and all matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and may be approved by 1-minute motion. Is there anyone who would like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Okay, I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Can we pull number 11, please?
Okay. Is there anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move the balance.
I move the balance.
Thank you.
I will second the motion. I was scrambling to unmute myself.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nistandi,
Yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so we will go now to the consent item held over, which is item number 11. And it looks like we have Ms. Chavez, please.
Thank you. And Mayor, I just wanted to point out, and I've been in touch with Ms. Chavez. As a result, this is the general fund financial report. And as a result of the transition and the very recent mid-year correction, the budget as presented in the report is the old budget prior to the correction. So you'll see that, for example, the budget shows revenues of 55 million, expenditures of 63 million. And as we all happily know, we are now projecting a modest surplus rather than a significant deficit. And Ms. Chavez, I'll turn it over to you, but certainly this was new to you, and I think you intend to update that budget in future reports. Is that correct?
Most definitely. It will be on the February report and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez. And I know we'll have an opportunity to say congratulations later, but congratulations. And with that, I'll move approval of consent calendar item 11.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nistandi,
yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick,
Yes,
motion passes unanimously.
thank you so much. We are going to move to the action calendar, but I just want to alert everyone that we do have a public hearing that was posted to occur at 4:30. So wherever we are in the action calendar, we will go to that public hearing at 4:30. So we'll go to action calendar item number 13, amend ordinance number 1254, revising chapter 11.01.080, parenthetically parks prohibited conduct generally, of the Palm Desert Municipal Code relating to the improper feeding of wild or domestic birds. And this is our first reading. So, and that is that Mr. Muir who is going to provide us that staff report? Oh, it's Ms. Muir, excuse me.
Mrs. Muir, thank you very much, Mayor, and good afternoon to you and the members of the City Council. This is my first City Council meeting as an employee with the City of Palm Desert, so I'm very glad to be here. And I took up the amendment of this ordinance because it had been already considered by the Parks and Recreation Commission. We've had issues with the duck feeders at the pond, and they've been vandalized in the past. Not to mention they do cause overfeeding of the ducks, which is not only poor for their health, but contributes to the pollution of the lake. So this is a clarification that was originally executed by the commission. I developed the red line and a clean copy for your review and approval.
Right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? I do have one. I actually, when I read this, I thought, this is so easy to understand exactly what the issue is. So thank you for that. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, can we have a motion, please?
A motion to approve?
And second, and congratulations.
Yeah,
on
welcome.
an excellent report.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Palm Desert. Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes,
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you so much. Okay, our next, this looks like it could possibly, well, we'll see if we can get through it. This is number 14, review recommended changes to the development standards of the R2, which is mixed residential district, and direct staff to initiate a zoning ordinance amendment for chapter 25.10 of the municipal code. And who will be providing that staff report?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Martin Alvarez, your Director of Development Services. Myself and Ms. Rosie Lua, our Planning Manager, will walk through a discussion with you on the R2 Mixed Residential District. And just by way of background, we recently had some concerns raised by some residents in the R2 zoning district, which is generally identified here on the map to be near our commercial core and San Pablo area, roughly between Portola and Monterey, and a little bit to the south across Highway 111. So we want to give you some background as to how some of the modifications to both the general plan and the zoning occurred, what were some of the changes, and then Ms. Lula is going to provide for you a couple of recommendations as to potentially address some of the concerns of the residents. And so we want to give you as a background that illustrates where we were prior to November 16, 2016. In those days, we had a very straightforward R1 single family residential district. We had a maximum height of 15 feet, and anything above 15 feet with new construction or additions would have to be presented to the Architecture Review Board. There was no public notification required in terms of that process, but certainly those meetings are open to the public. And also those actions by the ARC are appealable to the City Council. The City Council went through an extensive general plan update, and right after 2016, new general plan was adopted. There were some modifications that came in the general plan for this area, which we identified there in the red in the map, to a small town neighborhood. Characteristics for the small town neighborhood would basically allow for moderate intensity and density, somewhere between 3 to 10 units per acre. Neighborhoods with a variety of different choices for housing that would provide walkability to our adjacent, downtown core, and even our connections between the downtown core and the residential districts. And so this is a general area we're talking about between Highway 111, Portola, and Monterey towards the north. So after the general plan was adopted by the City Council, the general plan designation went from medium density residential to small town neighborhood. That's the second kind of row there on the screen. With that, there was some upgrades or some consistency updates to the zoning ordinance on August 24th of 2017. So what was done as to be consistent with the general plan, the majority of those R1 properties were redesignated to R2, mixed residential district. And there was some development standards that changed at that time, going from a 15 and 18 foot max. We allowed the zoning basically designation to go up to 2.5 stories with 30 feet in height. At the time and currently, there is no process by which this goes to architectural review for a discretionary review, and there's no public hearing required at this time. So what we wanted to do is bring this topic to your attention, and I will turn it over to Ms. Lua, and she'll walk through. Unless you have any questions of me specifically, we can pause there. Okay, seeing no questions, I don't see any. I'll turn it over to Ms. Lua, and she'll walk you through a couple of other items for our discussion.
Unless this is a good time to pause for the 4:30 item.
Does,
You can actually finish this item and then go to the public hearing item once this is finished.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so I'll try to run through this one quickly. As Martine has explained, we have had recent concerns with the R2 development standards, and that is with an approval that took place for that second story addition. And so it was also the property owners that came forward and expressed concern over the R2 zoning heights allowances. So apart from, our property owner that was approved for that second story addition that came forward and presented those items at City Council and also to city staff, there was additional members of the public that came forward. And their concerns are really that they did not know that their zoning had been changed to R2, so we had to explain that process, and as well as those height allowances that included a second story that was permitted by right, and also their concern with privacy adjacent, privacy of adjacent owners that should be considered. And the third one was just needing a public process for second stories. So with that, staff reviewed the concerns of the public that were provided in writing, as well as those interactions that took place. And that also helped us guide for these recommendations that we have here today. The R2 zoning standards within our municipal code are here in our table 25.10-3. And so for the development standard recommendations here in the R2, we currently have a 30-foot maximum height. We are recommending that there is a 15-foot height by right, and anything above 15 feet up to 30-foot maximum would be allowed through a recommendation of the ARC. So that would be authorizing the ARC to review those as a discretionary approval, as well as reducing the 2.5 current number of stories to 2 stories maximum in this R2 zoning. The second recommendation is that we implement a public notification process for owners immediately adjacent to the project. So that would be those owners adjacent to any project to get a 10-day notification prior to the ARC meeting. The third recommendation we are proposing is that the ARC to review those second story design elements to ensure impacts of the adjacent neighbors are minimized. And we believe that the ARC is the appropriate body to review those design elements and have that public notification process combined will provide for the neighbors to be voice their concerns, as well as for the ARC to take in consideration any of those elements that need to be revised. And that is our proposal to you. If you agree with staff's recommendation, a zoning ordinance amendment will be presented to the Planning Commission as a recommendation prior to the City Council for your final approval. We are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you. Just 2 quick questions. Number one, would the proposed changes apply to a situation where the property is adjacent to 2-story buildings already? Or is this only when there's a proposed 2-story next to single story?
I think our recommendation would be that that all 2-story structures be reviewed by the ARC just for compatibility, and and even with the 2-story buildings. So that would be something to consider.
Okay, I just needed that clarification. And then just a quick question. I may have been part of drafting that original ordinance. I can't recall, but what was the thinking between 2.5 stories? What's that about? Does anybody know?
It's been a long time. I know Rosie might have some insight in talking to Eric on how that came about.
Right. So the 2.5 stories really came from the general plan. And if we go back to the small town neighborhood, it provided for an allowance for 2.5 maximum stories. So it was just carried over onto the zoning update for consistency.
No, I get it. My question is, what was the thinking behind 2.5 stories? Are we missing anything by going to 2 stories? Was there a specific purpose?
So part of what the discussions have been here is that in the downtown area, there was already heights allowances for up to 4 and 5 stories. So that was just the land uses that in adjacency to be a step down, and 2.5 I think is what came of that analysis.
Okay.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, first, deepest thanks to staff for hearing the public input and really working with it, working with the goals of the general plan and bringing us a thoughtful solution that is so very much appreciated. My question is this: I basically want to test a perception that I have to see if it's correct. My perception is that we can do this, we can accept your solution and still achieve the goals of the general plan, because other attributes of R2 zoning will still allow for those parts of the city to gradually attain greater density through the smaller setbacks and other aspects of R2 zoning. Is that a correct perception that we can do this and strike a good balance so that the goals of the general plan are achieved, and yet we're avoiding the unforeseen impact that residents have called to our attention?
Yes, we believe so. I think that's a good point in terms of the balance. The general plan is still going to be worked towards in the long run.
Thank you.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I came to ask the same question, but Councilmember Kelly expressed it so much more eloquently, so I have no question.
Great, thank you. Thank you for tackling this. And at this point, if there are no other questions or comments, entertain a motion.
I would love to move to approve and just reiterate that thanks. A change of zone does sometimes bring some unexpected consequences because there are so many ramifications of each zoning category. So the key is to adjust as those come to light. So again, thank you. And I move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second the motion and believe this is a good remedy for the issue that was created.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Hernig?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we will now move to the public hearing item number 16. And the report is prepared by Andrew Firestein, Assistant City Manager, and Heather Horning, Assistant to the City Manager. So may we have the staff report, please?
Yes, good evening. I'm Heather Horning, the city's assistant to the city manager. Tonight, we have a presentation from Mal Richardson from BBK on the census redistricting process and a review of the current draft maps. I would like to point out that an incorrect image of the map option 3 was included in the staff report, so a revised report was provided as supplemental material. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mal Richardson.
All right, thank you, Heather and Andrew, and Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for inviting me back for what could be our final hearing in this process. If it is, I just want to note your staff, especially Heather and Andrew, have been incredibly professional, just phenomenally hardworking. So you're very lucky to have them as assistants. So I'm going to share my screen as always, and we will dive right into a PowerPoint that will walk us through what exactly it is we're doing this evening. I'm going to see if I can go to a slideshow. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So what we're going to do tonight is very briefly go over some of the slides we reviewed before, but we've been through these slides now. This will be our fourth time, and with workshops even more than that. I think what you're more interested in at this point is reviewing the further iterations of map option 3. If you'll recall at the last hearing, the council coalesced somewhat around map option 3, but then asked for further iterations, right? Additional information from map option 3. So we've produced 3 additional options, and we're going to spend most of our time going through those, but I am going to just go through a few slides that will give us a history of where we've been, that will inform where it is we're going. I will note that at the end of this hearing, the council has the option of selecting a draft map and adopting an ordinance this evening that will approve that draft map. The council also has the option to give further direction, to have us come back at a subsequent meeting with further iterations of the draft maps that you'll see tonight. So those are the 2 options the council has this evening. So again, we've been through, this will be our 4th public hearing. There have also been workshops through this process. The law that informs this process is a combination of federal law and state law. We've discussed that at length. I'll just note that here in Palm Desert, we're dealing also with a settlement agreement, which changes things a little bit. As you know, we are required by that agreement to have a different population balance between our 2 districts. And that balance is roughly 80-20, which we can review in subsequent slides. This is a zoom out of your existing districts, District 1 and District 2. You're familiar with this. And these are your current demographics in those districts. The main reason, besides the fact that we have to do this pursuant to the law for this change, is that your population is currently out of balance due to population growth since these districts were implemented. The range permitted is there in the 4th column of this table. That is what is required pursuant to the settlement agreement. So each of the map iterations fall within those ranges. Okay, so tonight we're going to review draft maps, possibly select a preferred map, and then also possibly introduce the ordinance finalizing the map selection. Again, the council also has the opportunity to give further input and have us come back with additional maps. So we started with map option 1. Looks somewhat similar to our existing maps. Demographics, I won't go through those. Map option 2 is very similar to map option 1. We've already moved beyond these, so I won't spend any time going into the details. If you'd like me to, I can always stop and talk about them, but these options have been reviewed and we've moved past them. Map option 3 is really kind of what we coalesced around last time. I will zoom into this with a further slide, so we won't spend time right now going over this, but this is map option 3, which is the foundation for the further iterations. With map option 3, the demographics are the population is 20.2% versus 79.8%, and the citizen voting age population of the Hispanic population is 36.4%. Now, I will go over those numbers again because that's kind of the baseline from which we can compare map 3B, map 3C, and map 3D, because those are the numbers that we're most concerned about. So I'll go back to those repeatedly. This was map option 4 submitted by a public member. The problem with this map was that it bifurcates District 2 which eliminates the requirement of contiguity. So District 2 is not a contiguous district with map option 4. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the revised draft maps pursuant to council direction. I'm going to share a different screen now so that we can dive into those further iterations. Okay, so as a reminder, this is map option 3, and at any point you can ask me to zoom in, you can ask me questions. The main problem that we had with this was that there is contiguity with District 2, but it's very, very minimal, because right here is just a small swath of property or of land that connects District 2 north with District 2 south. And so there was a desire by the council to make District 2 more contiguous. So the first iteration of map option 3 is map option 3B. And I'll note that each of these iterations is pursuant to express council direction at our last meeting. And I'll walk you through exactly what was done. So I'm going to toggle on to map option 3B, and you can just watch what changes. So in 3B, we lose this area between Fred Wang on the south, the Channel on the north, Phyllis Jackson on the east, and Deep Canyon on the west. And we gain the rectangular area between Portola on the west, Deep Canyon on the east, and Gala on the north. I'll remove option 3 so you can just see 3B. The coloring's not that strong, but you can see what's happening here. So this fills in right here to create a more compact district, and this is eliminated here to create a more contiguous District 2. Now, the numbers barely move. With each of these iterations, the numbers barely move. The population balance is 20.3 versus 79.97. As a reminder, with option 3, it was 20.2 versus 79.8. So we're dealing with 0.1%. The Hispanic CVAP goes from 36.4 to 36.7%. So a slight increase with this more compact and more contiguous map option. So then map option 3C is actually a further iteration of 3B. So 3B goes from 3, then 3C goes from 3B, and so on. So I'll show you map option 3C as compared to map option 3B. And what happens here is we just lose this rectangular portion right here, and that again is between Portola and Deep Canyon on the west and east, and Gala on the north. And I'll remove 3B. So what that does is it takes us to 20.22 versus 79.78%. Again, we're right in the middle of our population balance requirement, and the CVAP is at 37.4%. So slightly higher than both options 3 and 3B, but really a negligible difference between 3B, and 3C. Finally, map option 3D is a further iteration of 3C. Now, if you pay attention to right up here, what 3D does is it adds a portion up at the north. You can see it added right there, okay? I'll remove 3C, it's really the same thing. So what this does is it adds a rectangle between 42nd Street on the south and Hovley on the north, Cook on the east, and Quintera Apartments on the west. The demographics were at 20.05% versus 79.95%. So again, a negligible difference there. And the CVAP between 3 and 3D, at 3 is 36.4%, 3D is 36.9%. So again, a negligible difference. So the numbers are pretty much all the same between each of the maps. The differences really are in terms of the neighborhoods that are included and excluded, compactness, and contiguity. So each of these options, 3, 3B, 3C, and 3D, they all work. And it really is at this point a matter for council preference in terms of, again, the neighborhoods that you want included in District 1, excluded from District 1, the amount of compactness you'd like, and contiguity. That that is, those are the map options. That essentially concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, to zoom in on any of the maps that you like, and again, to answer questions.
Okay, thank you so much. And Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thanks, Mayor. Hey, I may be looking at a superseded report, but the map option 4 that I was looking at was a very contiguous kind of area that was different than the one you showed earlier in your report, Mr. Richardson. Can you show your map option 4?
Yeah,
Is
so
that what you had? Okay.
This is
Yeah.
map
Okay.
option 4 right here. Yeah.
Okay. And that one on the report I have indicated that the city population percentage was 19.94%. Does that kind of invalidate option 4 from consideration?
I'd have to go back into the PowerPoint to see what the ranges are. But I think that's within it, because I think the ranges are 18 point something up to 20. And so if it's at 19, you're within the ranges. The difficulty here is contiguity, right? You've split District 2 in half.
That's what it was. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
We need to open the public hearing.
Yeah, you know, that's a really good point. Thank you. Public hearings throw me off every time. So if there are no other questions of staff, and I'm assuming there aren't, then at this point, we will open the public hearing. And if anyone would like to speak at this time. And I don't see anybody with a hand up in the public. And so in that no one has requested to speak, we'll close the public hearing. And we have Councilmember Kelly, please.
First, thank you to everyone who has worked on this process, because it really has helped me to crystallize my thinking. And as I have assessed these 3 variations on map 3, I am led to favor option 3C. The reason is that it changes the status of the fewest neighborhoods. And that strikes me as a positive objective for us as a council. The conversion confused some people. They absorbed it. I think it would be beneficial if the fewest possible people need to absorb a change of status into or out of District 1 at this point in time. So what strikes me as beneficial about 3C is that it does preserve the status of the neighborhood, which I believe is called the Grove, that slice that is different between 3B and 3C. It strikes me that the public will be more accepting of this voting system if people are not surprised this year, who currently are expecting to vote in the election, and because of this redistricting process end up being told that's not the case. So I favor 3C it as the added benefit, if I understood correctly, Mr. Richardson, that the Hispanic citizen voting age population is slightly higher in that option as compared to the other variations on 3. So that slight addition is certainly compatible with the original reasons for establishing District 1. So after others have had their chance to think about things or to comment, I would be prepared to move for the adoption of map 3C and to progress with the ordinance inserting that choice.
Thank you. I see Councilmember Nastandi has her hand up.
Well, I just want to give support towards Councilwoman Kathleen Kelly's comments. They're very compelling, and I agree with her. We should try to surprise as little amount of people as possible by moving them into a different district. I just know from the few comments I received, people were already confused, thinking we were actually voting to go to 5 districts, which is a different topic and agenda item. So there's already some confusion out there. So I would err on moving as much people as possible into a different district and complying with the law. I could second the motion if Councilmember Kelly was making a motion.
So do we have a motion and a second? Okay, we'll continue discussion. Are there any other comments that anyone would like to make? I see none. I wonder, Mr. Richardson, would you give us those numbers again for 3C? I would like to hear them.
Sure, Madam Mayor. 3C. The population split is 20.22 versus 79.78, so right in the middle. And the CVAP, I believe, is 37.4%. That's the highest of all of the options.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
That's 3C.
That's 3C.
Okay, so I must be looking at an outdated report that had different numbers. The one I'm looking at for 3C shows city population is 19.05%. Non-Latino white CVAP 50.4%, Hispanic CVAP at 37.9%. So I just want to make sure we get the numbers right. So am I looking at an outdated report?
Yeah, I believe so. I ran these numbers about an hour ago. So these are the updated numbers.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's what I needed. Are there any other questions or comments? Any further discussion?
One last comment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I raised my hand and got stuck in between. I concur with my colleagues that it has been a challenging adjustment, and in looking at where the limitations or the changes would be minimal, I think that benefits all of the residents in getting equity. So it has been great to learn from this process, and I'm very thankful to the demographers that this process was a lot more transparent and easy to follow along than the first time this process was done. So my deepest gratitude. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? In addition to the work that Mr. Richardson did, I want to thank our staff for getting it out there and letting the public know so that they could be engaged in the process. They did a great job of really getting that out on social media and on our website as well. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla?
Aye.
Mayor Harnick?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. So now we will go back to item number 15, which is approve Unite Palm Desert Security Camera System Grant Program. And who will be providing that staff report?
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. We're just 1 minute shy of evening. I am Deborah Glickman. I am a management analyst in the Economic Development Department. And a couple of elements of this proposal is that the staff is proposing a security camera system grant for commercial businesses within the city. The proposal is to set aside $20,000 for up to 40 grants of $500 per business. Grants would be available to businesses or property owners on a first come, first served basis. Security camera systems, which could consist of any amount of, excuse me, any amount of cameras, because it will vary based on the business and size of the location. They can be indoor or outdoor cameras, because all of that does assist with public safety. The requirement would be that the camera system be kept in place for 3 years, unless the owner of the business or property decide to upgrade the system. With technology moving so quickly, we don't want to stop people from actually increasing the quality of their cameras. The other requirement for the grant would be that the owner of the business or property register their camera system with the Riverside County Security Camera Registration Program, which is related with public safety and allows the police to get information from those cameras. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No comments? Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if it slipped my mind. I'm getting a little forgetful. You mentioned that it would give RSO or whatever law enforcement access. Is that something that at any time during the 3-year contract that they could opt out, or is this for the extent of that? And again, sorry for asking earlier, just popped in.
No, it's fine. The intent would be that it would be for the entire 3 years of the contract, because the goal is to help law enforcement with any issues that arise.
Thank you very much, Ms. Glickman.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, many of you may be aware we had a crime solved by one of our merchants' high resolution cameras. So this is a wonderful asset to our community, and it will not only be an asset in solving crimes, I think it'll even be a greater asset in deterring crimes. So I think that's terrific. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we will now move back. We'll jump around one more time to public hearing, which is item number 17 on our agenda. And this is the resolution to approve amended franchise agreement with Burtech Waste and Recycling Services, LLC, to collect solid waste, recyclables, and organic waste, conduct majority protest hearing, and approve adjusted rates as outlined. And who will be providing the staff report?
That'll be me, Heather Horning, the city's assistant to the city manager. As you may recall, the city's been working with Burtech for some time now to negotiate an amended franchise agreement to incorporate the state mandated recycling laws, including Senate Bill 1383 regarding organic waste. For your consideration tonight is the proposed amended agreement and a new service rates. We have Leith Ezet and Haley Kunert from HF&H Consultants who have been assisting with the negotiations here tonight. Haley will be giving a presentation on this with staff. We also have Frank Orlett from Burtech here in case you have any questions for Burtech. And at this time, I turn it over to Haley for the presentation.
All right, let me get it up and running. That's the right screen. Sorry, I have too many screens. All right, good. Now we are evening. Good evening, City Council and City of Palm Desert.
Can everyone hear Haley well? No, okay, we need,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
How about now? Sorry, I must have
Better.
hit my microphone off. My apologies. So good evening, Mayor Harnick, City Council and City of Palm Desert. My name is Haley Cooner and I am here with our Senior Vice President from HF&H Consultants, Lathy Zett, and also Frank Orlett is available for questions as Heather already reported. So let's go ahead and dive into an overview of the negotiations and the agreement that we have prepared for consideration tonight. All right. So quick agenda, we'll review some background. Again, the SB 1383 required programs, new programs and agreement modifications, a schedule for program rollout, as well as I will turn it back over to Heather for the city staff recommendation. A little bit of background, the city entered into an agreement with Burtech back in 2006 when it was assigned from Waste Management. Burtech is the exclusive provider for residential, commercial, and industrial solid waste services. The current agreement was amended in May 2015 and currently expires May 31st, 2023. The current agreement does not include programs to comply with the new Senate Bill 1383, which is California's short-lived climate pollutant reduction strategy, and city staff, HF&H and Burtech have been in negotiations since October of 2020 to come to the proposed agreement for you today. Back in August of 2021, there was a study session with City Council, and during that study session, City Council formed a subcommittee to provide guidance to city staff on a variety of topics, including rate options, the term of the agreement, the recycle fund use, a container colorization plan for new container colors that are required under SB 1383, as well as what kitchen pails to be provided to assist with the program rollout. And finally, a community outreach plan to make sure everyone is aware and informed of what is going on and the changes that are being made. The subcommittee members included Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan, as well as Councilmember Quintanilla. And the subcommittee has brought forth today a proposed 10-year term extension or an 11-year term from the end of the current agreement. And at the bottom of this slide is the sure close container that was requested to be provided to residents to roll out this program. I'll pause here if there's any questions on the background at this time. Seeing none, I will continue on. So SB 1383 is a state mandated program and includes a variety of requirements, including a new residential organic waste collection program, which means all residents will need to not only divert their green waste, but also their food waste. And by divert, I mean compost or send to some sort of not going to landfill. So that program will be mixed. You'll mix your food with your green waste, and then those kitchen pails will also be used and distributed to help residents transfer all that food directly to their green container to help with the mess factor. Also included in SB 1383 are container contamination monitoring protocols. Burtech will assist with notifying customers for contamination. Burtech will also assist with inspection and enforcement related to any follow-ups that need to be done, and the city would follow up per the municipal code and the mandatory ordinance that went into place back in February of 2022. There's edible food recovery provisions with Burtech assisting with educating businesses and informing them of local edible food donation opportunities. There's also additional education outreach requirements in the agreement and in SB 1383 that Burtech will assist the city to meet. There's a procurement of organic waste products included in SB 1383. So Burtech's going to assist the city to meeting this requirement. And the city will also be receiving 100 tons annually of compost for use at city facilities and giveaways. I know Burtech has already also started giving away compost at some of the farmers markets and events they've been attending. Finally, all of this great new information needs to be reported back to the state, and Burtech will be assisting with providing the reports and reporting necessary to monitor the programs for SB 1383 compliance. Any questions on SB 1383? Councilmember Quintanilla?
Thank you. I seem to think at some point that the proposal was not only that they be allowed to have things in paper bags, but that plastic bags would also be possible. And that's where the Thor 3000 separator came in. Am I recalling that differently?
Frank, did you want to speak to that? I saw.
Sorry, I had to figure out how to get out of mute. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Frank Orlett, Vice President of Burtech, Councilmember Quintanilla, that is correct. They do have the option to do a plastic bag as well, because we will have a Thor turbo separator, great memory, that will be able to.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure. So sorry.
No, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on 1383? All right, we'll move right along. So again, all of these programmatic changes with SB 1383 do add additional costs to comply. And there was also some recycling processing cost increases. So some of those additional costs that Burtech has had to factor in, including that residential organics material collection program, which is a new program, includes 5 additional collection trucks, additional green waste carts for the 23,000 customers who don't currently have green waste carts, processing per ton cost for the food mixed with the green material because it's a much more difficult material to process, those kitchen pails for everyone, and finally some additional startup education and outreach to make sure everyone is aware of the program. There's some additional costs related to the recycling commodity revenue adjustment due to the changes in the China sword policy. And then also additional SB 1383 monitoring and public education and outreach requirements, which would require 1.5 additional Burtech staff members to assist the city with doing the necessary outreach and reporting to meet the requirements of 1383. Finally, the container compliance provision of SB 1383 has rolling out of new blue recycling carts, as the current recycling carts are not compliant with the requirements of SB 1383. And SB 1383, there are very specific color requirements to make sure there's a standardized color scheme across the state, and the current cart colors did not comply with that. So some additional proposed program enhancements to the collection programs for the city include multifamily bulky item collection at no additional charge for multifamily complexes. So for example, a multifamily complex with 10 units would receive 10 collections of 4 items per pickup for a total of 40 items per year. And that would be at no additional charge to that multifamily complex. There will be also additional residential trash set outs. So if you during Christmas, you generate more trash than you can fit in your containers, you can schedule a pickup of extra trash up to 3 bags per pickup up to 4 times per year. There will be an additional document shredding event, moving from 2 to 3 events per year, an annual compost giveaway program, as well as a plastic bag drop-off program at the Burtech Recycling Center. So if you have a bunch of plastic bags from grocery shopping, you can take them to the Burtech Recycling Center and they'll take care of them. So some proposed enhancements to city services include portable toilets at 4 city-sponsored events, containers for city use at 12 special city cleanup events, and Burtech will cover the cost for the Prop 218 annual rate adjustment notices, which is about $30,000 a year. Gonna pause again for questions. Any questions so far? Hearing none, I will continue right along. So proposed enhancements to public outreach include a requirement to promote the local medication take-back opportunities, such as at Walgreens and those programs already in place. Also a outreach use of a third-party designer to assist with developing outreach pieces, and an annual public education and outreach plan that will be reviewed and approved by city staff. So city staff can collaborate with Burtech and make sure the outreach meets the city's needs. And finally, one time per year, the city can place signs on Burtech's trucks for use of city outreach. So if the city wanted to promote an Earth Day event or something else that's coming, or an important program in the city, it's available for use of getting the word out and spreading the word. So proposed enhancements to rates, there's a simplified rate adjustment methodology, and that's for your annual adjustment every year to ease that process. There's an annual recycling rebate for customers based on future commodity revenues. So every year, once per year, customers will receive a rebate on their initial invoice for that year. There's also a one-time adjustment of residential rates on July 1, 2024, based on actual organic collection services. So of course, these are new programs. There were assumptions that went into the calculations, and this is essentially a let's take a look and see if those assumptions were accurate, and basically a look back and a reset provision to those assumptions used to develop the residential organic collection rates. All right, so enhancement to the agreement terms includes the option for the city to direct organic waste for community composting facilities, a compliance audit every 3 years. And so this was just to check and make sure all the billings are accurate and other compliance metrics in the agreement are met. Enhanced performance standards, including some customer participation requirements, and finally, some restructuring of the city fees. So the recommendation for the term of the subcommittee was to go for April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2033, or for 11 years. It includes up to 3 one-year extension options at the city's sole option, a phase-in of the contractor's residential rate increases over 4 years, with the possible use of the recycling fund to further phase in the residential increases over 5 years. And we'll get into that a little bit later to take a look at what that would look like to the rates as well. And also a one-time commercial industrial sector rate increase of 5.6% that would take place or be implemented April 1st, 2022. Any questions? So the proposed contractor compensation adjustment is as outlined in front of you. So July 1, residential customers would see an increase of $1.83. Now for those customers that currently have a green waste cart, they will only see an increase of 40 cents. So the prior current rates were for 2 carts, so only receiving a refuse and recycling cart. Now all residential customers will be receiving 3 carts. And I'll give everyone a second to take a look at those proposed rates, but we've outlined what each adjustment will look like for the next 4 years with the phase-in of the increases. This does not factor in any use of the recycle fund, but the phase-in of the Burtech increases.
Haley, just to clarify, as I recall from our subcommittee meetings, part of the reason, and in large part for the rate increases, is because Burtech is expected to make very significant financial investments in new equipment, and both the 11-year term and the increases were designed to restore some or all of that cost. And I think by and again, clarify and tell me if I'm wrong, but part of the reason in extending the contract over the 11 years is to minimize the annual increases. Am I recalling accurately?
Correct. And it did also add an additional year for that phase in. So it helped to alleviate the burden the customers felt further by adding an additional year to phase in the rates. All right. So during the subcommittee and during the August council presentation, we discussed the possible use of approximately $2 million of the recycling fund to offset those residential increases. Now, there's no recommendation or task at hand to discuss for this council meeting because the proposed phase in of the increases over 5 years is in alignment with $1.83 for this year, and then for the remaining phase in years, keeps it pretty consistent at that bottom row of $1.83, $1.90. And then that final year on July 1, 2026 would be $1.27. So the bottom row is with the use of the recycling fund to further phase in the rates, and the top row for that 11-year term is Burtek's proposed phase in. And this will be brought back for council consideration during the review of the 7/1/2023 rate adjustment. So the tentative schedule at this time, plan schedule, is that the mandatory service ordinance required under SB 1383 went into effect February 26, 2022. There was an automatic service letter distribution for the mandatory organics recycling and mandatory commercial recycling laws AB 341 and AB 1826. That the first letter went out in February, the second letter will be going out in March as a request of CalRecycle to reach full implementation with both of those legislative requirements of 341 and 1826 by this summer. The agreement effective date with the enhanced commercial services would start April 1st, 2022. Residential food waste program rollout and the new residential rates would be in effect July 1, 2022, as well as attempting to achieve that full compliance with 341 and 1826 as required by CalRecycle. And finally, if there's no more questions for me, I will turn it back over to Heather for the recommendation of city staff.
All right, well, so at this point, staff is recommending that we adopt the resolution approving the amended franchise agreement with Burtek in order to bring us in compliance with 1383 and implement all these programs. We've also attached the adjusted service rates outlined in exhibits 3A, 3B, and 3C of the amended franchise agreement that will go in effect, as Haley mentioned, April 1st for commercial, July 1st for residential. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you'd have at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? No questions of staff or of that in-depth report? Okay, seeing none, then at this point, we will open the public hearing and ask for any comments or remarks from the applicants. And still seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and then invite the council to discuss. Councilmember Kelly.
First, thank you to our council subcommittee, to staff, to our consultants, and to Burtek for bringing us a very, very comprehensive proposal that has thought through countless questions and I believe come up with very good approaches and solutions. To members of the public, no one wants to hear about one more cost that is going up in our lives. But I would share with you that these rates are still substantially beneath what I have experienced in other parts of the state where I lived some years ago. So through best practices, collaboration, and use of the recycling fund, these are comparatively affordable rates for excellent service. And I hope members of the public will utilize all of these additional services, such as bulky item pickup, extra trash pickup. I greatly appreciate the compost giveaways, which enable us all to experience some benefit from the extra work of segregating our food waste. So commendations to everyone. I greatly appreciate the work and certainly will be prepared to move approval or vote for approval if someone else does.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur. Along with Councilmember Quintanilla, we sat on that subcommittee and really did a deep dive and into a wide number of issues. And I come away being very grateful for our staff, for our consultant, and I have to say, especially for BurTech and frankly, for Mr. Frank Orlet. I think we have such an excellent partner, and I'm grateful for the quality of service that they provide, not only for the basics of waste and recycling pickup, but also all the add-ons that Councilmember Kelly referred to. I think we're lucky. We heard a few weeks ago, maybe it's been a couple of months now, of a sister city that faced massive increases in their monthly bills. Our residents will be fortunate because it'll be a few percentage points. It's an increase. Everything is going up. We know that. And so this is a very modest increase. And we were concerned about any level of increase. And Mr. Orlet provided the data that showed that across the state, our residents will be paying one of the lowest rates for one of the highest level of services. So I feel that we're fortunate, our residents are fortunate, and I'm very grateful for all that were involved in bringing us to this point. I would support the motion. Thank you.
Oops, sounds like we have a motion and a second, and also comments from Councilmember Quintanilla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Same kudos to staff. I'm not going to delay the meeting to echo the sentiments of my fellow council members, but I do have extra gratitude for Mr. Orlet. The first time that we spoke, I hit him with my greenest dreams and my greenest nightmares, and he already had an answer and a plan and was so far ahead of what my expectations were, seeing the way that sometimes people perceive that things move slowly. So my gratitude for your commitment to being ahead of the game and presenting us with valuable information in concise reports. And like I said, I'm telling everybody about that shredder. That's, to me, was one of the coolest things. So being sure that things were simple and easy to continue those practices with residents, that to me was the best. So my deepest gratitude. Thank you.
Okay, I see Councilmember Nastandi's hand is up.
Well, I am going to add on to the praises of BurTech because I've lived in this city for over 25 years, and I know BurTech does more than just pick up our trash. They are community involved. They donate to charities. I know Frank's family's been involved in Mama's House and so many other charities. So you're a first-class operation and community leader. So I am happy to approve BurTech's contract.
Well, after that, I just don't feel like, what could I say? Thank you very much. And thank you for making my home better. So we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote?
Pro Tem Jonathan?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi?
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all your work on this and helping us understand. Okay, one more. We're moving back to, well, not one more, but we're going to another public hearing, and that is number 18. Let me pull it up on my screen here. This is the resolution to adopt a mitigated negative declaration, MND, in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and approval of General Plan Amendment 21-0002, parenthetically GPA 21-0002, amending the city's housing element and safety element of the general plan. And who will be providing the staff
Yes.
report?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Eric Seha, Deputy Director for Development Services. With me today is Jessica Gonzalez, our Senior Management Analyst with the Housing Division of Development Services, and Nicole Christ with Terra Nova Planning and Research. Before you tonight is the housing and safety element updates. These are updates that are elements part of the city's general plan. And this has been nearly a 2-year endeavor working with the community, our consultant team, and the Department of Housing and Community Development at the state level to ensure that the city is compliant with the new housing element update. Staff is here to answer questions, but Nicole's actually going to run through a presentation with you right now.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm going to share my screen for my famous PowerPoint presentation.
Nicole, where is the ocean?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to my background. Okay, you should be seeing a PowerPoint. So this evening, we're here to talk about housing and safety element updates. As the council is aware, the housing element is on a fixed update schedule that requires that we adopt a new housing element for what is called the 6th cycle, which covers the period from October 15th, 2021 to October 15th of 2029. The housing element, as you have heard me say before, is to assure that the city facilitates and does not provide obstacles in the development of housing for all economic and social segments within the community. With this cycle, we also have a requirement to update our safety element to address fire mapping and flood zone mapping updates that were codified in the government code for this cycle. Our biggest challenges through this process have been a very large increase in our RHNA. As Councilwoman Kelly is aware, it was a hard-won fight at SCAG to get an equitable distribution of units. The comparison is 7 times greater than our 2014 allocation, and it has been a challenge to identify sites. We are lucky, we still have vacant land. There are many communities that are having to look at redevelopment of existing parcels. We still have sufficient land to identify, to incorporate into our RHNA. The other challenge with the housing element this cycle has been the incorporation of new law to affirmatively further fair housing. They are requirements for identifying patterns of segregation to help the city fight discrimination and assure that we have inclusive communities throughout. And that is included as a new subsection of the element for you this evening. Our regional housing needs assessment, you can see the numbers here, require that we have a capacity for 1,135 lower income units. And that is for extremely low, very low, and low income households. And the income qualifications are shown in the table. Our sites inventory shows that we have a total capacity for 1,475 units. We have intentionally identified more sites than we are required to accommodate, so that the city has flexibility as projects are presented and brought forward. And because we still do have the allowance to make findings, to move inventory sites around. We also have capacity in our inventory for 596 moderate income households, which exceeds our requirement for 461 moderate income households. And finally, we will need to accommodate 1,194 above moderate income households. We use this slide at the study session. I wanted to bring it in again just to demonstrate what affordable housing is for. You have heard at some public hearings some unpleasantness about who lives in affordable housing projects. So we did a search of available jobs. And if you look, for example, at the hostess, server, cook category in a restaurant, if a couple were a hostess and a cook in a restaurant and had 2 children, they would make about $58,000 a year. That is a low income household. Bookkeepers, gallery assistants, shop clerks are lower income households, especially single parent households that have single incomes. So these are all folks that work hard in the community, that fill jobs throughout our businesses, and who are part of our community and need to be able to find affordable housing. We have identified sites throughout the community because of the way that Palm Desert has built out. There are more vacant sites in the north end of the city, and so we have more sites north of Frank Sinatra, but we have distributed sites, as you can see here, in the middle of the city and also in the central part of the city, to the extent that we still have parcels available. We also have developed a map that Eric prepared to show the distribution of existing and future sites. So we clearly have distributed, whether they are in private projects, housing authority projects, or future projects, we've attempted to distribute affordable housing wherever in the community where it is needed. And so that extends across most of the city from Highway 111 northerly. This is also from the study session, I believe. It demonstrates that of our total housing units anticipated, the percentage in the North City is relatively low, as you can see at the bottom of that table. We at build out will have affordable housing units distributed throughout the city. The policy direction has not changed substantially in this housing element. We have included amended program 1A, which deals with projects that are cooperative projects with the city or the authority participating with private developers. That's in 1A. We have included programs for units where the city is participating at the Millennium site, the Sagecrest Apartments, and the Vitalia project. And in 1C, we talk about the project at the Sands, which is an entitled project that is moving forward again. And the Site A, which is located at the very westernmost end of the city over by Key Largo, which is a specific plan that that Eric has been working with the owner on to include a percentage of affordable housing units in their housing program. We also are required by new law to promote accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. They have had some success in Palm Desert. We've been permitting about 20 a year, and those are not necessarily deed restricted, but they do provide lower income households with an affordable housing option. And because it has been a successful startup, we'll be expanding those possibilities for this coming cycle to provide an additional opportunity for housing for folks in the city. We're also including and expanding the description of the housing overlay district so that it allows for more flexibility in development standards. It allows us to do a wide variety of housing products, particularly for affordable housing units, and allows us also to potentially waive fees for projects that promote affordable housing. Finally, the safety element, as I mentioned earlier, is relatively limited in its changes. We have updated the FEMA flood zone mapping that was recently released. We also processed through the state fire marshal our state and local responsibility fire zones. We have a very small area of state responsibility for very high severity zone in the very southwest corner of the city. And that was processed through the state, and we received the approval from the fire department. And so our element is consistent with law from their perspective. And we also expanded the discussion of the local hazard mitigation plan, which was also a requirement of this update. So as stated in your agenda, our request is that the council waive further reading and adopt the CEQA for this document, as well as the 2 housing and safety element updates. We had, as you are aware, back and forth with HCD twice. Your attachment 6 shows the last batch of changes that we submitted to HCD after our second draft letter. We would ask that you adopt with those changes. We have had discussions with our reviewer at HCD, who has been helpful in reviewing informally this last batch of changes, and believes that the element is in compliance with those changes. And that concludes my presentation, and I would be glad to answer any additional questions.
Okay, are there any questions at this time? There are no questions, so we will open the public hearing for any remarks from the public or remarks from anybody. Excuse me. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open it for discussion. And I see Kathleen Kelly.
This is an immense amount of work. And thank you to staff and to our consultant for bringing us such an excellent product of which we can be proud. And I am proud that from its inception, Palm Desert has strived to have a variety of housing at a variety of price points throughout the city, which I believe makes us a more vigorous city, accessible to a wider variety of people, and has helped make it feasible for our city to present a housing element tonight that is compliant with the state's expectations. So with deep gratitude for those who have worked on this, as well as those who have preceded us at this city, I move to approve.
A second.
Okay, there's a second, and Councilmember Quintanilla has her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In addition to all of the housing needs of the current families that already live here, this is a great commitment to having affordable housing for students. So this is the kind of forward thinking that has been in progress for some time. And as we keep specifying that we want our own Cal State Palm Desert, it's wonderful to know that all of these accessory dwelling units will incentivize people to create different opportunities that benefit our students. So thank you, everyone.
There are any other questions or comments, any discussion? You know, in the entirety of the SCAG region, there are only 6 entities that have their housing plan, the element okayed right now. So it's nice to see that we are well on our way and in a good position. Oh, I see Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan's hand is up.
Thank you, Mayor. I wasn't going to say anything, but I want to point out that this is yet still another unfunded mandate from the state, from Sacramento. We all share the goal of creating housing that is affordable for all. We want to be inclusive in our city. It's often a matter of money. We're mandated to create affordable housing, but we're not giving the funds to do so. And in fact, the means that we used before are gone. So it's very challenging. And our city has worked very successfully with private developers. They understand that it's our goal to create affordable housing, and they've played ball with us. And as a result, we've had the success that Mayor, you referenced. So, I just want to make sure that the public understands that if they're not seeing affordable housing going up quickly enough, then it's not for lack of trying. It's more of a lack of funding. Notify Sacramento that we want dollars coming our way. Thank you.
Well, can't argue with any of that. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. How about a roll call vote?
Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. We are now on to 19. And that is to adopt a notice of exemption in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. There it is again. And approval of a summary vacation of an unused portion of San Pablo Avenue right-of-way at the southeast corner of Fred Waring Drive and San Pablo Avenue to be in conformance with the city's general plan.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Kevin Swartz, Associate Planner with the Planning Division.
Andy Bowman with the Department of Public Works.
All right. So the parcel is located across the street from our favorite place, City Hall. It's 1.54 acres. Back in 2014, the city dedicated a free right turn lane. Obviously, that was never constructed. On May 27th, 2021, the City Council approved the Shawnee mixed use project for this site. The summary vacation tonight is in conformance with the city's general plan. The summer evocation also meets the California Streets and Highways Code. With the recent reconstruction of the San Pablo Avenue, no further modifications are required or needed. This is recommended for approval from the Planning Commission. So this image here shows you the recent improvements on San Pablo. You can see in the red, this is the right-of-way dedication that's needed. Also for the Shawnee project, therefore staff is recommending approval. Are there any questions of staff?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. And are there any comments or remarks or any testimony that anyone would like to make regarding this project? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. And I invite discussion of the council on this issue. Such a quiet council tonight. Councilmember Quintanilla.
I move to approve.
Okay, Sarah, second.
I will second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. If there is no further discussion, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And our last public hearing of the evening, number 20 on the agenda, reapprove resolution number 2022-07, approving a historic district designation for Sandpiper Condominium Circle 2 located on El Paseo. And who will provide that staff report?
I will, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I am Jason Finley, your Chief Building Official and Cultural Resources and Preservation Program Lead. On February 10th, the council conducted a public hearing for a historic designation to Sandpiper Condominiums, Circle number 2. The council approved the hearing with resolution 2022-07 designated that said area. After council action, our local newspaper disclosed a publishing error for the public hearing. And so with direction from our city attorney's office, this item must be brought back to council for consideration. The notifications and publications for the followed protocol have been observed. The previous staff report remains accurate and there is no new information. So staff recommends readoption of this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I just have one question. Was that in the previous vote? Was that a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions of staff? No, there aren't. So we're opening the public hearing in case any member of the public would like to provide remarks or any testimony. And I'm looking, I see none. So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and invite discussion, please. Or a motion.
Move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Can we please have a roll call vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly,
Yes.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Harnick.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time we are through with all agenda items. Is there anyone from the public? This is the last chance to address the council. See none and no unfinished business. Our next meeting is March 24th, 2022, and this meeting stands adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Healthy, everyone.
Meeting adjourned 5:53 p.m.